Hello again. Now, diabetes has become one of the most dangerous diseases in the world. Most people are living without knowing that they actually do have it, worryingly so. There's a growing trend of diabetes diagnosis among children, primarily attributed to unhealthy diets and inactive lifestyles. And this is impacting on all of us. Now, let's discuss this with Feldman, the Executive Head of Healthcare Consulting at NMG Benefits. Gary, good afternoon. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. From an NMG research that you do as NMG Benefits, what are the trends you're seeing in our country today around diabetes?
Good afternoon, Tom, and good afternoon to the viewers. Yeah, Tom, I think it's important that we, on today specifically, which is World Diabetes Day, share some of this information and try and inform people around what diabetes is and how you can identify it. So I think the most important thing is that diabetes is basically the largest underlying natural cause of death amongst women specifically. And quite often it goes undetected until, unfortunately, it's too late. At the moment, there are about 1 in 10 people do suffer from diabetes, and in the next 20 years, we see this dropping to 1 in 8. So it's an alarming statistic that we see people with diabetes.
Yeah, I get it. It's Dan here. So what about the impact? I mean, is diabetes has got that underlying disease and it's known as a silent killer. As you are saying, it's affecting more women than men. But as a result of diabetes, what are other health issues then that emerge?
Well, I think, Dan, you're right. I mean, basically, it's undetected until people are critically ill. And that's why when we consult to companies and to individuals, we say to them, go for the screening as early as possible, as regularly as possible. Really, there are 3 different types of diabetes. There's type 1, which is found more amongst young kids. And as you mentioned in your introduction, I mean, this is due to lack of exercise and potentially obesity amongst the young generation of today. And then ultimately type 2 diabetes, which is more in your older person. And then the one that is not permanent is that women get diabetes during pregnancy. So that could potentially result to type 2 post-pregnancy, but sometimes you do recover from diabetes post-pregnancy as well.
Yeah, are inactive lifestyle largely to blame for the emergence or existence of diabetes among children today?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the factors that increase the prevalence of diabetes, it's really, if you've got a family history, that does play an important role. It's being overweight or obese and inactive, and obesity, especially around the waist, where you're carrying a lot of fat around the waist, and then basically being physically inactive. And we see this more and more. Children are not playing outside, or not being active, or not running around, or sitting in front of TV, their TV games, on their iPads. And that is concerning trend. And then amongst adults, also smoking and unhealthy eating habits. Those are all contributing factors to basically the prevalence of diabetes amongst our population.
Yeah, now you've mentioned one thing among the steps of how to control it. You said it's important to go and screen so you know your status, you know your condition, whether you have it or not, because early detection is important. What other steps, in your view and your experience, will be important?
Basically, the important points that people must look at is, firstly, they must look at their weight, monitor their weight, don't pick up weight, basically follow a balanced, healthy diet, and then also regular exercise. And you don't have to exercise for long periods of time. If you go for a walk every 2 or 3 days for 30 minutes plus, that's at least keeping the body going and raising the heart rate. And then also, very importantly, is the diet. I mean, so to eat whole grain foods, to eat high fiber foods, those are all very good for fighting diabetes and also preventing people from getting diabetes.
Yeah, it's a big challenge nowadays. I'm just thinking about the cost of living crisis here in our country and the very sluggish economic growth, and then the cheaper the food that's available, the unhealthier it is.
Yeah, Dan, I think the processed food and the fast foods are poison. I mean, they are basically very low in fiber and unhealthy, and all the processing that takes place. That's all. And we've seen, unfortunately, during COVID, people ate more and more processed foods, were not going out buying healthy foods. And this has all contributed to us communicating to clients, to members of the public, and to educate people. As I said, today being World Diabetes Day, it's important to educate people. We've sent out communication to clients, what they can do to prevent it. And basically, most important is go to a clinic. I mean, all your pharmacies have clinics, and a sister or a nurse can just do a finger prick test, and it can give you an indication if your sugar levels are raised or not. And if that is raised, then you have to have a full blood count done, where you fasted for 12 hours to make sure that your bloods are clear, and then they'll identify if it's a case of diabetes or not.
How frequent must you do that?
And I think it's important that you probably do it once a year, and most of your medical schemes offer those type of services included in your benefits. So for medical scheme members, it's basically a must once a year. And yes, for the people that are reliant on public health, I would say, as I said, you can go to the public clinics and they'll do it for you. And you must try and do it once a year specifically. Specifically, if you've got family history. As I said, that is one key criteria that does contribute to
yes.
developing diabetes.
I mean, we always hear from economists that disease is a big burden, it can become or is a big burden on our economy and on our country if you look at all other kinds of diseases. What are you seeing from an NMG Benefits research in terms of diabetes and the impact or the burden it's causing on our country?
Well, I think one of the results of diabetes is fatigue, and fatigue does result in a lack of productivity. And quite often, when you engage with companies and you look at their staff and productivity declines, and you start identifying by wellness initiatives in the organization, you can see those people that are more often, number one, absent from work, number two, tired at work. Diabetes is one of the key contributors in that space.
Thank you very much, Gary, for your time this afternoon. Gary Feldman talking to us on today, the 14th of November, World Diabetes Day. He's the Executive Head of Healthcare Consulting at NMG Benefits, sharing some of what their research is telling them, some insights, and giving a little bit of advice how we can handle this silent killer of a disease.